Welcome to the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne, and this is episode 71. Thank you for tuning in to the podcast on one of the many podcasting apps on which we appear, or through our webpage, rockisgeorge.com, on our YouTube page, or at knac.com, the loudest.com on the planet. My guest for this episode is vocalist Robby Thomas Walsh. He sings for the band Perpendicular. That's Purr with a P-U-R, and there's a reason for that. Perpendicular features Deep Purple drummer Ian Paice within its ranks. The band is ready to release their third studio album called Human Mechanic through Meadowville Records on September 23rd. If you haven't heard of Perpendicular, this interview is certainly going to clear things up for you. So here's Robby Thomas Walsh, vocalist for Perpendicular. If I knew absolutely nothing about Perpendicular, how would you describe the band's music to me?
I said rock and roll, that wouldn't say anything either, would it? The best way to describe us is we've got a lot of influences. Obviously, we started as a Deep Purple tribute way back in 2007. And that was primarily born out of us being really frustrated with the original market, which is we just couldn't get paid. I mean, it was so difficult to present new music to an audience. You'd be put kind of on a ticket deal, you know. So we said, look at what are we going to do? So we said, look at what's the common denominator? What bands do we really love that we could express ourselves basically and kind of put our own stamp on it without copying. That was the mantra. That was imperative that we didn't just copy, because there's only one Purple, obviously. So we just said a few names are thrown around, Zeppelin, but we all said Purple, and we said Purple for the simple reason was because that there's a lot of space in that music to be expressive, and you can put your own stamp on it. You can do it your own way without going off the track too much. You know, you got to keep the Purple fans happy. You know, you're going to get them turning up. Oh, you're not like Gillan, you're not like Blackmore, you're not like this. We had in mind that we didn't want to be a Blackmore band kind of thing, you know. So we purposely went more Satriani Morse because nobody was doing that. So we said, look, we'll start off with that. We'll call the band Perpendicular. That'll stamp it. And off we went around Europe. We started in Austria, and Ian joined us for one of the first small tours. We did a lot of small touring back then because, you know, with about 50 with Ian, it would have been about between 5 and 10 dates in the early days. But we really had to work hard without Ian on the drum seat to get the name established and to work as much as possible and to pay the bills, because we couldn't, you know, that's the main thing. I remember ex-girlfriend of mine coming into the apartment one day, George, and she said, the landlord is looking for the rent. And I said, well, tell him to come in and we can both look for it. So, yeah, we worked really hard back then. And but we didn't know all this time down the road that we would start doing original stuff. So we got the Perpendicular name there, but it's okay. It's fine. And I mean, the band has been very good to me personally, so there's no complaints anymore. So that's basically, on stage, we're a live animal. We press with a lot of energy to the audience. We work the audience, and we make sure there's a lot of improvisational parts in the music to keep it interesting for ourselves, to keep us alive. And every night is a different night, and we don't rehearse. We never rehearsed since 2009. We just say, right, we're going to do these songs. Anybody that makes the first mistake is buying the bloody beers. So that usually works, George. Yeah.
How does one make the transition from Deep Purple cover band to writing originals?
Well, I think that's just what I said there. When you're expressive on stage and you're doing a lot of improvisation, and I mean, I think every musician wants to be creative, wants to be expressive. It's just the way it is. I just think, you know, and we had all these ideas, you know, and sound check and jams and the shows and stuff, and we had a load of tapes, and of course the guys love to write obviously riffs. Obviously Herb, he's a guitar riff freak, you know, so he presents always good vibrant rock and roll riffs, so it's hard to ignore it, you know. So you take it on board and you say, right, we're going to do, let's start writing, you know. And I think it was Ian back in 2015, why don't you do your own stuff? And I just explained to him, as I did to yourself, George, so why we didn't start that way. But now it seems like a bloody good idea.
Ian Paice, drummer, Deep Purple, how does he get involved with your band?
I met Ian in Manchester in 1996, the Manchester Apollo, but I was just there as a visitor. And we got chatting, and again, I was invited to do a show in Austria with him in 2000. And, do you know, I think it was 2002 or 2003. I can't remember. It's starting to slip already, you know. We met and we did the first couple of gigs. One was in Vienna, Austria, and the next one was in, I think, Zagreb in Croatia, I think. We just got on great. We went for dinner the second day together, and we had the same humor, the same interest in beers and whiskies, of course, and football. We're football crazy. And we became good buddies. But on top of that, we became also good kind of business partners. Like when he's not with Purple, he does a lot of work with us. He keeps his limbs fit. Because, if he sits at home, he loses that 5-10%. Just a little bit like a footballer, actually. If you don't train in front of people, you're going to lose that little bit of match fitness. So he needs to keep on playing in front of people because, and it's the same with myself, you can't just sing to a wall, or you just can't play in a practice room. You don't get that adrenaline push and that rush that I need personally. So you can stop in the middle of a song and have a coffee. That's not allowed. There's a discipline when you're in front of people. You have to produce the goods.
Perpendicular's third studio album is coming out on September 23rd, called Human Mechanic, on Metalville Records. This album's been delayed at least 2 years, correct?
We had a problem, obviously, with COVID. Now, there's a lot of bands that were putting music out during that period, but we said, look, we're not going to put it out and not be able to tour because you can't promote it properly. We didn't want the sales or the promotion to suffer. So we said, look, let's just keep it. And while we kept it under the boil, so to speak, we had another couple of songs written during that period. We had a bunch of material, and then we broke it down to about 10 songs, 10 tracks. And it just seemed like the right time when we struck a deal with Metalville, who are doing a fantastic job both in Europe and America. And we're so glad to have that co-work with them. They're working pretty hard. Yeah, it just seemed like the right time. Okay, let's do it now. I talked to the label boss, and we made a little plan, strategy, and now we're ready to go. And thank God, because we didn't know with COVID, I don't know what it was like for yourself, George, but I think everybody involved in this kind of industry took a little hit, so. But you take, as I say in all the interviews, you take a positive from a negative. So it gave us time to think, okay, where are we going with this? What direction we want to go? What are we going to do next? So because normally we would be working all the time, so you wouldn't get that time just to reflect. And in hindsight, then you get all these, okay, let's not do that anymore. Let's do this. And plus you have more time in the pub. Well, that's wrong. That's wrong, actually, because the pubs are closed as well.
Pubs were closed.
My private bar, like what you have there.
Exactly.
It got extra work out of me.
If you stockpile like this, you don't have to worry about the liquor stores closing.
I know that's the danger of it. That's the danger. When you keep going up and nobody says it's closing time too, you got, that's dangerous. And then you realize the birds are singing,
Let's talk a little bit about the songs you have out there so far ahead of the album's release. Human Mechanic, my favorite song right there. It certainly speaks to our society today. If you want to talk a little bit about the song.
Yeah, cheers, man. It's a little bit tongue in cheek. There's all these problems. You see world leaders and just people shooting other people for no reason, and just chaotic scenes. I think we just got crazy, but as the song says, it's no reason to panic. We're out of control. We need to go home. Let's not panic. We can get this, But the tongue-in-cheek part is, wouldn't it be lovely, just like an egg, if you could open a human's head like that, just like your breakfast in the morning, just crack the egg open and just, and say, okay, you need a fan belt, you need a couple of spanners, a couple of nuts there, maybe a camshaft, fix him up, close the head, and he's done. He's happy again. It's tongue-in-cheek. It's a little bit ironic, you know. So, but the song itself, you know, the big message in it is in the first line. If you can remember, is the I get no love from you, which makes all the bad things we do. And that's, you know, if somebody's not treated with respect or love on many different levels, they're going to act like an asshole. At one point, it's going to come back. You know, it's a typical relation thing. You know, if somebody feels that they're not being treated with a degree of respect, they're going to say, hey, you know what, you Jack, you know. And it's the same with man and woman in this day and age. Or the relationships, if they feel, you know, okay, the husband is spending too much time in the pub, you know, and he didn't say anything about my nice dress, you know. You know, then you get trouble, you know, and that's where it starts. And I think some of these so-called world leaders and stuff like that they fall into that category. So they decided to go crazy on everybody. So from my perspective. So basically that's the title track of the album, The Human Mechanic. So it would be just nice to have a just similar thing to a car mechanic, because the poor psychologists and Samaritans and psychologists are overrun nowadays trying to do a great job. Great. So, okay, I'm going to book you into BMW next week and you can take your head off and fit you with a fan belt and you'll be fine, you know. You'll stop killing people.
The second song you have out there is Ghost. I believe it appeared on a Meadowville compilation album for humanitarian funds for Ukraine. So if you want to talk a little bit about Ghost. The
inspiration for Ghost was Herb had this great riff, and he said, look, I think this is perfect for us in Perpendicular, because Herb does a little bit of production with other projects. And he said, I think this is good for Perpendicular. And I had it a long time, George. That was one of the tracks that we would have had back in 2020. I had a few ideas for it, but the thing Ghost was born out of when the Ukraine thing started, when that unfortunate war at the moment. And, you know, there's been young kids being killed in every corner, you know, and there's a ghost in every corner. But on the other side, from our perspective, it can also mean that whatever relationship that you had in the past, whether it be family, friends, a close relationship, and if you lose somebody and you walk through the city and you have remembrance, you know, oh, we used to sit in that cafe over there. You know, you get memories as a ghost. It's not, it mightn't necessarily mean a spirit, but it could be a memory of somebody that passed away or just split up, or an ending of a relationship. So basically, ghost, that's what it, that's the basic meaning of it. You know, it's basically absence. If so, you know, there's a ghost on everywhere you look, there can be a ghost of previous memories, basically. So that's the story of it, basically. Yeah.
Do you have a third single that you're planning to release?
Third single is a thing called Four Stone Walls, and I think that speaks for itself. It's about when, you know, it's not only about isolation, but it's about, hey, you know, I've got to do something. The walls are closing in here, and the main theme was the COVID thing. Everybody trapped inside the house, so that came very, very quickly to us. And there's a good jam on the way out. There's a bluesy kind of a shuffle jam on the way out, where Ian and Herb and Christoph on the Hammonds, they sink right in. They get right into it. So I let them do their thing on the end. Yeah, that was a fun track to do. And it's just somebody saying, you know what, I can't take this anymore. This is ridiculous. I've got to do something here. And I think many of us nowadays are thinking like that, you know. And change is a big thing for people. People love habits. They love routine. They don't like to be taken out of that. It would probably fall into that category as well. So, you know, hey, I've got to change something, but I don't want to.
The album is coming out in multiple formats: CD, digital, vinyl. In keeping with your Deep Purple 70s influences, it must be nice to have your own vinyl record coming out.
You know, George, I've never been on vinyl before. I've been on a lot of things. I've been on canvas. I've been on... No, I've been... I've never had vinyl. I can't wait to actually hold it in my hand. Because when I was growing up as a small boy, reading many autobiographies and stuff like that, you always read about the previous generations of musicians. They always got stuff on vinyl, or cassette. And it was really funny because we had these little cassettes when we were kids. One of us on the road would have the new record, and we would say, "Oh man, can you record it?" And you put it in his letterbox, and the tape would go wonky, so you had to get a pen. Remember the pens, the big pens, and you have to, oh god, you cassette the what you call it, the tape would come out of the cassette, and you had to wind it back like this. You remember? Or not? Maybe you don't have to remember.
No, I do. The 80s for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, you get the album off whoever had it, whoever had the new album. And I was being a kid, we didn't have much money and stuff like that. So my parents, or my dad more, would have had the vinyls of Wings' greatest hits. He had Rumours, Fleetwood Mac, Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin 2, Cream, Wheels of Fire, and of course Deep Purple and rock. So that was basically my schooling, because I stopped listening in school when I was 14 or 15. I realized, hey, you know what? Nobody's going to ask me the Battle of Hastings in the supermarket when I'm buying bread and milk. So.
My exposure to vinyl was my parents signing up for the Columbia House subscription club, where you got 10 vinyls for $1.
$1? Wow.
Yeah, but then you had to buy 10 more albums at like $25.
Yeah. That's the thing. You start on a roll. I'll get another one. I've loads of money here. Yeah, vinyl is. I can't wait for it. It's actually a silver vinyl, I'm told, from the label. Mm-hmm. It's going to be silver. Maybe you remember this, George. Did you ever have a scratch on your vinyl and you knew where the scratch was, but when you heard the song in a club somewhere, your brain was focused on the scratch? You remember this?
Yeah, or a skip. Yeah, a special skip. Yeah.
I'm only 120 years old. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I had it on Led Zeppelin 2, right where Bonham was coming in on Moby Dick. I think he did it, instead of a paradiddle diddle, he did a paradiddle diddle 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 diddle, so something like. And I used to keep going, and everybody looking at me say, "Oh, you got that wrong, man." He said, "Oh, maybe it's debatable."
So you guys are signed with Metalville Records, which is actually killing it lately. I think your last 2 albums were indie labels, and Metalville seems to be taking off. So how did you guys end up signing with them?
That was we were introduced from an agency in Germany. Oh man, what was it called? Wolf. I forget his name. We were introduced, and I slipped them a mail, and myself and Holger, we just started the label boss, Holger Cook, who we used to work with Nuclear Blast. I told him that he knew about us, and I told him what our plans were, what we wanted to do, and he was very interested in that. And we had a 3-hour call one night. A sober one, by the way. It was a sober call. And we basically straightened everything out there and then. And then on our German tour, he came to visit us in Dortmund. And backstage, we did the business. We signed the contract. And we've good plans. He's got a great head on his shoulder. I like the way he presented his company. The guys that our A&R manager, Thomas Ziegler, is doing a killer job. Stefan, the assistant for marketing, is absolutely killed it. Nathan is really cool in our American office, if you know Nathan. So yeah, he seems like a cool guy, a guy that I have to take for a beer at one stage. Yeah, they have a good reputation. So it was a step up. We did have independent labels, and the last label that we had, they were really great guys. They just didn't have the financial clout, but they did what they could, and they were very kind to us, and they're still very kind and cooperative to us. It's important in this business because it's a sensitive business. That's what I always call it. And it's easy to fight with people, because of the sensitivity and the finances involved and stuff. So, but yeah, Jürgen Fastball was a pretty really kind to us, and what I've seen from Metalville right now is the best. With no disrespect, it's the best we've ever had, and we're really looking forward to this release and future releases. So yeah, watch the space, and I'm looking forward to this promotion campaign. I've got a lot of work in the United States to do, which I've never been to the United States. Whereabouts are you, George? Are you
Plymouth, Massachusetts, where the Pilgrims
Massachusetts? Oh my God! You see, I have to do it. We're down to do a US tour, so along the East Coast and North, I think. So it'd be great to catch up if we're in town.
Yeah, absolutely.
And bring some of them bottles. Well, we'll have bottles of our own.
That's right. Exactly. Speaking of touring, you guys are heading out right around the release time of the album, and you're bringing Ian Paice with you on drums. So,
On
whereabouts you?
drugs. I thought you were going to say on drugs.
Not maybe back in the '70s that was a possibility.
No, he's a beer and whiskey man.
Oh, perfect.
Excuse me, what were you saying? Go on.
Where you guys? You guys are heading to Germany, I know.
Yeah.
Whereabouts does it go after that?
Well, we got Germany, Scandinavia, Czech Republic. We're in Czech Republic in about 4 weeks. Austria, Switzerland. We got a big tour of France. Our promoter in France is doing a great job, Antone Booker. Hats off to that gentleman. And he's got us in some really cool venues. I think we've got about 12. It's the largest French tour, so we're looking forward to that. And we got 2 days off in a haunted castle, so there'll be plenty of prank work, I'm sure, there, because we love pranks when we're on the road. Humor is our thing to keep us ticking when we're on the road. So I can't really say anything about the United States right now, but I'm sure myself and Holger were talking about it, and he's trying to work something out, and I'm sure we'll have some positive news on that fairly soon.
You've performed with other members of Deep Purple throughout your time in the music business. You perform with Roger Glover and Joanne Turner and members of Rainbow tied to Deep Purple, yeah. Tony Carey, Paul Morris. Is there anybody in Deep Purple that you've been trying to kind of share the stage with that it just hasn't come about yet?
Yeah, in 2009, we had a assistant, kind of a manager. He wasn't a full-time manager, but he had contact to Richie. And we tried to get Richie to do it, but his current manager, and they didn't want anything to do it Deep Purple back then, no matter what formation it was. He gave us a compliment. He said, "Great band, but maybe you could support us on the Blackmore's Night or something." And that isn't my thing. I mean, I think it's brilliant, and what he's done and what he's given to rock and roll is outstanding. But that was about it. I don't think we asked anybody else. I don't think we didn't. Rog played with us in Switzerland in 2012, Roger Glover, and he was a guest that night, and we said, "Come on, Roger, come on, man, put your bass on." He said, "I'm on my day off." And I said, "No, you're not. Come on, you wouldn't be here if you didn't want to work. Come on." So we forced him on stage. That was cool. Yeah.
So I am going to put you on the spot. I was going to say I don't want to put you on the spot, but I am going to put you on the spot.
Am I on the spot?
You're on the spot. Which vocalist era of Deep Purple do you favor? Now, the good part is Ian Paice has been in every era of Deep Purple, so it's perfect. We won't insult him in any way. So are you a Gillan guy, a Coverdale guy, Glenn Hughes, JLT?
BLT, I thought you were going to say. Bacon, lettuce, and tomato. I work with Joe as well. What a guy Joe is. I had a brilliant night in Russia with Joe. We were in where were we? St. Petersburg, 2010. But oh my God, I mean, when I was a kid, I obviously heard in rock, but the first time I heard Purple live was an album called Scandinavian Nights. And I was at a party, and I was chatting up this girl as a young teenager, as we do. And she faded into the background when I heard this music. And I was looking at her, but I wasn't listening, that kind of way. I wasn't listening to what she was saying because I couldn't believe what was coming out of the speakers. And it was Ring That Neck, about 38 minutes long, of just John Lord and Richie just bouncing off each other, and then I obviously heard Gillan, and I thought, yeah, this turned my head a little bit, and I remember the disappointment, George, when somebody said, "Well, Gillan only did these first albums. He came back, but he left then for 3 albums," and I said, "Oh Jesus," said, "Yeah, it was David Coverdale." And I said, "Who is this geezer? I won't like him. I don't think I'll like him. How could you replace Gillan?" But equally, I was fascinated by David because of this big blues baritone, huge voice that I put ahead of Paul Rodgers. And no disrespect, Paul Rodgers is amazing, but I just prefer, for my own personal taste, David was amazing, especially the soul-y stuff. And that got me into my soul. I love soul music. And I started to dig deeper when I heard Stormbringer. I started to listen to Otis Redding, Motown, and then obviously I grew up with funk and blues with Chic and ABBA, and it wasn't only just rock and roll. And So if you put me on the spot, it's a pretty difficult thing. Wait a minute, I've got 3 spots here. No, they're all brilliant. And Glenn, I mean, when I saw Glenn, I wanted that suit in California Jam was really cool. I wouldn't put it on. I wouldn't put it on now. Probably wouldn't fit into it. But yeah, that was. If I had to pick one out of them all, it would have to be Ian. I mean, But there again, I don't copy. He was just. I mean, when he was young, he looked up to Elvis Presley, and I guess when I was younger and I needed to find my way, Ian was kind of a role model, but I wouldn't, I've got to copy that guy. I've got to be exactly like him. It wasn't like that. It was just I learned so much from him, and I learned so much then when I heard other, not from a vocal perspective, but to be a front man, because obviously not the best singer in the world and not the best front man in the world, but when I put the two together, I can hold my own on any stage in the world. I don't care. You can put me anywhere in front of the California Jam, be not a problem for me. I get more nervous when I have to go shopping myself on my own. I get really nervous when I go shopping for jeans or something. But put me in front of 200,000-300,000 people, not a problem. Easy. I could have my breakfast at the front of the stage. But yeah, I suppose it would be Ian. It would be Ian, because I think his humor would be similar. Growing up in London and I grew up in Dublin, I mean, we have similar humors, But I'd say that would also be a factor, that he seemed a little bit more like the people that I hung around, like beer and a Scotch and Coke kind of a person. So that environment, that would have also had a factor. So yeah, he looks like he would be one of us, and so that was he was a realistic figure. He wasn't dressed up like a Christmas tree or anything like that, or like the way they went crazy in the 80s and stuff, so. Besides
Perpendicular, do you work with any other music projects?
I tend to not. I tend to have my plate full with Perpendicular. During COVID, I got a lot of offers to do this, do a lot of stuff online, and I just refused it because I didn't see the point, really. I'm not really a social media guy. I kind of came away from it. Hence the track on the album. It's called Internet Freaks and TV Stars. It's I have a little dig at people soaking up the internet, wanting to be TV stars, which is nothing wrong with it. It's just a cheeky little dig, Everybody wants to be TV stars nowadays, and everybody wants to be models and God knows what. When most of us aren't really that. It's not a reflection on real life, to be honest, from my perspective. Where am I going with this? What did you ask me?
Other music projects.
Yeah, no, I don't know. No, I'm a big BMW fan, right? Motor racing, with the Deutsche Touring Masters and stuff. I tend to follow that. I have no, that's about it. I tend to have my plate full, and full-time dad as well. So I'm pretty happy with what Perpendicular are doing at the moment, and I tend to turn down any session work or anything. I used to do a thing in Austria with a Pink Floyd revival band for a few years, but I knocked that on the head. I felt it. I just want to, I'm the sort of guy that I need to concentrate on one thing. There's musicians out there that have 20 projects. I don't know how they do it. I'd go nuts. I would really go nuts. And that brings me to the first song on the track, called The Nothing Box, where I sat with Ian one summer's day in Austria, in Linz. And we're having a lovely drink. We just sat down. It was midday, or about 2 or 3 in the day. And the story of Nothing Box came, that I heard a little thing from a comedian where their women have boxes in their heads, but they're all connected with wires and confused and planning, and where guys, and I don't mean this in a sexist way, by the way, just before I get shot, the guys have simple little boxes, all nice and neat in their head, but none of them are connected, you see. But there's one box in the middle that women don't have, and it's called a nothing box. And it's where us guys go when we just daydream. We just do nothing. We're not thinking about anybody. We're just doing nothing. And that's a little story about Nothing Box. So you just reminded me there when you said that.
Final question.
Yeah.
What is your preferred Irish whiskey, and how much is in the cup you've been drinking from?
Well, I tell you, this is actually coffee, but I tell you, if this was full of whiskey, the interview would be going on till midnight, probably. Jameson all day long, Jameson, because I was born not because I was born beside it, but I actually, it is the best for me, for my tongue. It's a beautiful whiskey. It's, how far was it from my house? I was born Dublin 7, in the district of Dublin 7. And that was just around, it was about a few kilometers from my house. So maybe I could smell it when I was a child coming through the window. You know, where my mom lived, there's another whiskey called Kilbeggan. My mom was in Dundalk, my grandparents, and there's a whiskey down there called Kilbeggan. We used to say the Kilbeggan, we used to use it either if there was nothing else or to paint the walls with, you know. But Jameson would be my number one. But on tour, usually Jack Daniels, Jack Coke, lots of ice, long drink, or a vase if I can find one. But if I'm going to drink an Irish whiskey and it's got to be pure, it would be Jameson. Definitely.
I would highly recommend Teeling.
What is it?
Teeling, Teeling. Fantastic Irish whiskey.
Is it a malt or is it a single?
They have different kinds. It's a single pot still, but then they have a malt and they also have a grain. And
excellent.
They do different things with it, but they're all good, very smooth. Where
is it from, George?
I don't know what part of Ireland. I don't have a bottle with me. I drank mine right to the bottom.
You just straight, cut out the middleman, just straight through it.
So the new album is Human Mechanic. It comes out September 23rd on Meadowville Records. It's a fantastic record, and I want to thank you for coming on the podcast to help promote it.
No problem at all, George. Thank you. Be safe, and I hope we'll speak soon.
Once again, I want to thank Robby Thomas Walsh of Perpendicular for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to check out what's available from their upcoming studio album, Human Mechanic, on one of your favorite music streaming apps. If you like what you hear, make sure you go out and buy a physical copy. Support the artist. For all things Perpendicular, check out their website, perpendicular.eu. That's perp with a P-U-R-P. And check out their Facebook page, facebook.com/PD Worldwide. I also want to thank Nathan T. Burke and Metalville Records for making this interview possible. You've been great. I've been George Dionne. I'll see you again soon.